And we will now move to the next speaker with Laurent Anthony, that I guess many of you also know. Laurent is since 2016 the president of Hydrogen Europe Research, which is the European research part of the Association on Hydrogen and Fuel Cells. He's a member of the governing board of the European Fuel Cells and Hydrogen Undertaking, of which we have already spoken a lot in the first presentation, so it's a nice transition. And after a career within CEA as a senior scientist, he has also now started, well, not now, but he's been active for many years in public affairs for hydrogen technology at CEA Lytton, that many of you know as well. So Laurent, the floor is yours, and thank you so much for making the time today.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. And I'm sorry because I'm in the airport. I was just landing. So I hope there will not be too much back noise. So yes, I will just give you a short presentation about the role of innovation materials regarding the deployment of hydrogen technologies. After a short introduction, I will present you the main achievements of RNI activities on hydrogen, and mainly during the two FCH1 and FCH2 JUs, and the role of hydrogen in Horizon Europe, and more specifically, what are we expecting from materials? So as an introduction, I think we can all say today that hydrogen is considered as a second leg of the energy transition with the electricity, which is the other one. And so you can choose the right or leg, it's up to you. But it's one of the two legs of this energy transition. And also one important thing, what we can see today is that really the momentum on hydrogen is now shifting into actions. And this can be seen at different levels. The first level, you may also have seen that more and more countries, regions have or prepare their hydrogen strategy at the political level. But also industry is really increasing very high investments in hydrogen. And this can be seen through the really increasing number of large-scale demonstration projects. And finally, already mentioned by Hélène, also international collaboration becomes more and more central. It has been mentioned by Hélène, either through SEM or through IPHE or IEA on the arena. So more and more at the international level, there are discussions, collaborations on specifically hydrogen, not only renewable, but also low carbon and renewable hydrogen. And why? And if you look at the net zero emission from the IEA, you see that from today to 2050, the demand of hydrogen should grow sixfold. And just by 2030, it should double, which means from a little less of 100 million tons, we should go to 200 million tons of hydrogen. And so how to produce that hydrogen? And on the right-hand side, you see that in the future, and this has also mentioned by Hélène, we need to use electricity, and as much as possible renewable electricity, but in order to be able to produce that low carbon and renewable hydrogen, we may also lose low carbon electricity. And meaning producing hydrogen with electricity means we need to develop electrolyzers. Electrolyzers which have to be with higher efficiency, lower cost, higher durability. So here really there is a real need of innovation regarding electrolysis on system side, but also on material side. So the main achievements of RNI on hydrogen. Here we must say that if today Europe is strong on hydrogen, we really have to thank the long-term vision of the European Commission. Here you see on that graph what is the budget devoted by European Commission to support the development of hydrogen and fuel cells over that time, since the 90s. And you see it's already increasing in each of the frameworks, and the next one will be 1,000. So it is a long-term vision that the European Commission had, and after and now with also some member states support also to further develop hydrogen. And the outcome of the FCH1 and 2, almost 2 billion, 1 million coming from the Commission, 1 million in kind from the private member states, and the private members are industry, which is Association Hydrogen Europe, industry grouping with more than 250 members today, and hydrogen research. I have the honor to chair, which is a research grouping with almost 100 members today. And so this is a little different from EMIRI, as mentioned by Philippe at the beginning. On the hydrogen side, we have two associations, one gathering all the industry and national association, and the other one gathering all the research actors. And this is also quite specific to our JU. The research community is directly member of the governing board of a JU with the Commission, which means there is a direct link between the Commission, the industry, and the research. And this really is helpful in order to have really dynamic discussions, and we can take also right and quick decisions. And regarding the topics of the JUs, it covers the whole value chain. And you have on the right-hand side, you can see the share between mobility, energy, and also, which is almost the same, for a little more than 40%, 6% on cross-cutting activities, which are very important. Cross-cutting means education, but also safety, regulation, codes and standards, and communication. And finally, the bridge, you can see these are the so-called overarching projects, which can also sometimes be mentioned as valleys. We have some projects covering the whole value chain. So we need also, we wanted to see from the beginning what could be some hydrogen ecosystems and how could they work and what could be the outcome of this kind of ecosystem on hydrogen. And just to show quickly what has been done, 10 years ago, we were happy to have an electrolyzer of 0.15 megawatts. And now we are starting 10, 20 megawatt electrolyzers. And even with the last Green Deal call, now we start projects developing 100 megawatt electrolyzers. You see, just 1,000 times higher than 10 years ago. Very nice achievements. Regarding transport, also more and more applications on transport have been developed using hydrogen technologies. I won't go through everything, but you see all the pictures, and here also owing to the support of European projects, but also on stationary. And here on stationary, we are speaking less about that. Of course, it's less, I would say, trendy that it can be in Japan, where they sold almost 400,000 fuel cell systems since 2011. But also at European level, we had also some projects leading to cheaper, more durable, and more efficient stationary fuel cell systems. And here are just some examples of these ecosystems I was just mentioning 1 minute ago. We also have 3 ones on Scotland, in Netherlands, and the new one in Spain, where we are covering the whole ecosystem from production to usage and having distribution and usages for transport, for stationary, or for energy applications. This is very useful to see what could be the hydrogen economy in the future. And now what's about the hydrogen in Horizon Europe and the raw materials? Ellen has already mentioned the next Clean Hydrogen JU, but I would like also to show here the role of research. Even if now we can see that hydrogen technologies become mature, are industrialized, this means that we also have to increase the research support. Following the graph, you can see that today we are really in the area where we are ready to go to market. Of course, there is a strong effort regarding applied research for industry, but we still need to have basic research, and basic research then will move into technological research and then prepare the next and second next generation of products. Just one example, I was speaking some minutes ago about the Japanese fuel cell systems. Today, they are at their 8th generation of products since 2010. So we really need an ambitious and continuous research all along the value chain. And that's exactly what Hydrogen Europe Research is aiming at. And as mentioned, we are today about 100 members shared between research organizations or higher education establishments like universities, present, as you can see, in 20 EU member states, but in total, with associate countries, about 26 European countries, and which is great, and we should have some more during our next General Assembly, the 1st of December. And our role is to tackle technological challenges, of course, to, I would say, research business as usual in order to increase technology readiness levels. But also now, as mentioned, we want to go to gigawatt scale factories, which this means that we also have to progress in the manufacturing readiness level. And here we need to help industry directly on their production line, but also, and this has been also mentioned by Ellen previously, we also need to have very strong European hydrogen laboratories and European infrastructure, which can really then support the development of pilot plants and the development of production plants at the European level. And finally, as researcher, we also need to prepare basic research, so breakthrough technologies. And this means with new materials, new concepts, new architectures, and to get rid as much as possible with all critical raw materials. And we also need to work on societal challenges, education, training, skills. We need, of course, to work on that, but if we want hydrogen to be developed, we need also to work on better community stakeholders' knowledge and acceptance. Acceptance, which means safety, but also market transparency. And here, all these life cycle and sustainability assessments becomes more and more important, as we really need to prove that the hydrogen we are producing, using, is really beneficial for the environment and also for the economy. And that's what we will try to do during the next Clean Hydrogen Joint Undertaking. I would say the same members, the two private members, Hydrogen Europe Industry, Hydrogen Europe Research, and the European Commission. And the budget has been increased. We will have 2 billion, 1 billion from the Commission and 1 billion from the private members. And our, I would say, main target is really to achieve renewable hydrogen costs between 1.5 and 3 euros a kilogram, and to have a transport cost less than 1 euro per kilogram. And as mentioned by Helen, we are not the only one working on hydrogen. We also have some synergies with other partnerships on application side. But regarding the three pillars that we now have, hydrogen production, where we need really to produce a massively renewable hydrogen, distribution by either pipes or by other means of transport, and usages which are on the transport side and on the industry side. And for the, as you can see now here, the pillars, for each of the pillar, we have developed some technological roadmaps. And you can see we have about 20 roadmaps. The first one, for instance, on electrolysis, but we have the same for distribution pillars, the same for end users. And end users is transport, one part, strategic objective 5, but you will see that, or you may see that there is no fuel cell cars. We have some building blocks which will cover any kind of hydrogen transportation, but then we will focus on heavy duty vehicles, on maritime, on aviation, and on rail. I would say fuel cell cars could be considered as almost industrial. And now we really need to focus where hydrogen has most of the benefit. And on the industry side, we have to continue to work on stationary fuel cells and also on hydrogen turbines and burners in connection with process for planet for application. And just to show you one example of what we call technology roadmaps that we have developed under our own strategic research innovation agenda released 2 years ago now to prepare the Clean Hydrogen JU, you see that from now to 2030, this was a common work between industry and research and gathering, I think, almost 400 people to work on all these different roadmaps. We put some targets and some numbers to achieve and different interim targets from 2020 to 2030. And then we decline this macroscopic roadmap into more actions, as you can see here, and the actions which could be funded by European programs, as you can see here. And from this, we then, after, had some really specific actions which should be taken during the Clean Hydrogen Joint Undertaking. And at different levels, at early stage research, basic research, if you prefer, research RIA, research innovation actions, and after innovation actions and flagship projects. And here I just put in red, where you can see, just for this example of electrolysis, in red, activities, project, potential future projects dealing with materials. And at the basic research level, you see there are quite some topics we will have to work on during the next JU. And then if we focus just on materials, here are some topics where we really are looking for new materials. We, as mentioned at the beginning, we need to decrease or even avoid to use low PGM, platinum group metal catalyst in electrolyzers and fuel cells. It's costly, but also it has some carbon footprint impact. So if we review them, we are working on both good directions. But we also need to reduce the usage of critical raw materials or even critical materials, which are not only raw, like for instance, PFAS, the perfluorosulfonic acid, which are used to build our membranes, either for electrolyzers and fuel cells. And there is today a proposal to to avoid the usage at the European level. And this can be just kill, I would say, all our hydrogen domain if we can no more use this kind of membranes, because there is no other solution today available. But that doesn't mean that we do not have to work to see if we can find another one. And then advanced materials for hydrogen storage, and in particular carbon fibers for storage, for tanks. Of course, we can work on polymers for the container, but then after, in order to reduce the content of carbon fibers in your tank, which can represent more than half of the cost of your tank, we need to have very high mechanical strength carbon fibers to be developed. Also to work on hydrogen carriers, materials like LOHC to have the right couples of materials, and also advanced materials for hydrogen transport, pipes, to have a better knowledge on what kind of materials can be used in order to avoid some hydrogen brittleness, but also for containers if we have to transport massively different kinds of hydrogen. Some examples. And also, I just wanted to finish, not to be too long, that if we are interested in with the ERA, the European Energy Research Area Alliance, where they have a specific joint program for fuel cell and hydrogen, with Hydrogen Europe Research, we have released last year, a specific document where we are proposing the key performance indicators, which are more going into the details of materials that we could have now in the next multi-annual work plan. And here are some proposals and some examples for electrolyzers, where we go at the electrode level or the materials level, what are the different properties we are looking for this kind of materials. So in conclusions, I would say that, as already mentioned by Hélène previously, hydrogen is a priority in Europe, and Europe has published a very ambitious hydrogen strategy, and with the alliance that now we have to achieve. And we have to acknowledge that owing to the strong public-private partnership, FCH1, FCH2, that really Europe today is really one of the leading regions regarding hydrogen at the research level and at the industry level. But this has to be continued, in particular the research level, and owing to the new clean hydrogen joint undertaking. And as research association, we need to say that we have to work in very close collaboration with the European industry in order to ensure that what we are working, what we're developing is really useful for the European industry, in order to the industry to be one or to be the leader in the hydrogen technologies. And as part of innovation, materials are really part of that. And from that perspective, hydrogen research is really welcoming to have a closer collaboration with all the EMIRI association. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Laurent. All live from the airport, so we sympathize with you. I think it was a very rich presentation. If I take your presentation and the one of Hélène together, they contain, I would say, the substance of everything that is happening in Europe. I don't see a question in the Q&A for the moment, but maybe just one question for the sake of time. Yes, we do a lot in Europe, and I think that there's, of course, a lot happening and very strong competencies. But there is also a lot going on in South Korea and Japan, for example. I was wondering, how do you see the possibility to use the European framework to engage into cross-Europe, Japan/Korea collaborations? Is there a way to do that today?
I would say we already have some collaborations with other regions. It can be in Japan, in US, and if you look even in the previous topics we had on the FCH2 in particular, for some topics we were encouraging to have some collaboration with IPHE countries. And IPHE countries, 20 countries per the European Commission, are almost gathering more than 80 or 90% of the hydrogen efforts over the world. And so we have already some European projects, for instance, on low platinum or platinum-free catalyst, where we have some collaboration with Tokyo Institute of Technology, others with some US labs. So it's possible, but of course we need to be careful that the IP remains at the European level, but it's every time very good to have some exchanges, the scientific exchanges with other parts of the world.
Okay, well, I think that's a good direction to take. So Europe is important, but we have to stay open to the world. So if there are no further questions, I will then thank Laurent for making the time, and the presentations will be available because they were very rich in information. So I'm sure that for the long evenings in the autumn, this is fantastic reading material. Let's move to the next speaker.